Welcome back to Collecting Canadian Cavalry and Armour. As you can see today, we're going to look at that wonderful regiment, the Royal Canadian Dragoons, who are currently serving Canada up in Petawawa, Ontario. Uh, feel a closeness with the RCDs. That's with those guys in Bosnia in '94, '95, and my daughter was a member of the regiment for quite a while. So I've got lots of good friends there. Great guys, great guys. Still in touch with many of them from our tour, and this is a wonderful regiment, Canada's Senior Armored Regiment. Uh, so here we have some of their badges and things. Now, interesting thing about the Royal Canadian Dragoons is they've kept the same hat badge. As you can see, here's the other ranks badge, which is the Springbok. And for those students of history who maybe are not aware, the Springbok badge came along during the Boer War in South Africa, 1899 to 1902. Story goes that some of the RCDs were in a leaguer there with their horses, and they're kind of relaxing, and some Boers, the enemy, were sneaking up on, not the pigs, but the Dutch settlers, anyway, the Boers, were sneaking up on them, startled a group of Springboks who took off and alerted the RCD that something was going on. And to honor that particular moment, they've used the Springbok on their as their hat badge ever since. So interesting story, fabulous. So here is, like I said, some of the badges, and we're going to show you the scarlet uniform, or at least the jacket and brass helmet, in a few minutes here. So here we have one of the helmet plates. Now this helmet plate would go onto this white Wolseley type of helmet here. It had the spike and everything else. Wouldn't have gone on to the brass Dragoons helmet, but we will show you a really cool brass Dragoon helmet in a few minutes here. So this is the helmet plate. It is Victorian. It's not the original helmet plate, because back when they were first formed, they were called the Cavalry School Corps, and they ran all of the cavalry tactics in the school and the learning centers for all of the militia cavalry. Now, you'll also see these two rather large collar badges. They are featured in Daniel Mazaeus' book on militia badges up until 1920, and I'm sure you guys have tried to pick those up because, as you know, the reference material is so important. Now, just because we're in Mazaeus' book, my good friend Tom Skelding, who spent many years in the Royal Canadian Dragoons, became the RSM. Big collector for the Dragoons, and so he's my go-to guy for anything dealing with the RCDs. He's wealth of knowledge, wonderful guy. Anyway, he collects the postcards and the photos, and he's never seen a photo of these things actually being worn. They were produced, maybe they were worn, maybe they weren't. Currently, there was no photographic evidence. And again, guys, it's all about the reference material, right? So here we have examples of the current cap badges. This dark one here, this bronze-colored ones, those are for the officers. They wear these ones here. The junior ranks, or the other ranks, I should say, non-commissioned ranks, have the brass. Okay, and again, exact same badge, different material. Now you can tell that these collar badges, okay, you can see they've got the loops here, like some of the older ones, and these ones, I'll flip them over. You can see they have the long pins for the clutch pin fasteners in the back. That's how you can tell that these are current ones. Nice to have. And here we can see the brass shoulder titles, RCD. This set is a little bit older. You can see how they have the lugs on the back, like some older cap badges, as opposed to the current ones, which are little screw posts that you would put onto the epaulette and then screw those in. So here's the current hat badges. So over here, guys, we've got a couple of, and girls, we have a couple of Second World War vintage RCD shoulder titles, or I shouldn't say shoulder titles, but shoulder flashes, whatever. Anyway, this is the triangle like this meant that it was 1st Canadian Corps. If it was on blue, it would be 2nd. Now, the Royal Canadian Dragoons during World War II were the Corps Recce outfit, right? So this would be on the upper sleeve, on the battle dress uniforms, with the unit identifier there, RCD for Royal Canadian Dragoons. These guys are equipped with the Staghound armored car, was their primary vehicle. And of course, they were very instrumental in the campaigns in Northwest Europe, liberated Leeuwarden in the Netherlands, and it's still celebrated to this day. Fantastic. And this one here would go up onto the epaulette, and again, just Royal Canadian Dragoons. Because at the time, they were still trying to figure out the whole shoulder title issue, and we'll take a look at a couple of the shoulder titles here in just a sec. So here we have some shoulder titles that cover the era from late World War II up until the present day, actually. So down at the bottom here, you can see this one here. This is a prototype that the government wanted to give to the RCDs, but they said no. They wanted strictly Royal Canadian Dragoons. They didn't want the Canada on the bottom. Not that they weren't patriotic, just that it's a regimental thing. So this one, although they produced it and sent it to the regiment ended up rejecting it. And then we go to this one here, which is the standard Royal Canadian Dragoons on Melton material, which is like a wool type, felt type material. And these were used not only late in World War II, but all the way up until they lost the battle dress at unification. Then we come up here to the Royal Canadian Dragoons. Now this would have been for the work dress uniform. Back in the late 70s and 80s, they had this work dress uniform, kind of looked like a bus driver's outfit. Not exactly military, but good enough for working around in. And you can see it's kind of got a dull gold thread on the dark green. And this one, because brighter gold on the Melton material, and it doesn't have the ridge on it like this one. This is for the dress uniform, which would have been the Canadian Forces green uniform before the DEUs came out. And I believe they probably used these in the DEUs for a while as well. Then we had the garrison dress. Remember, we took a look at that when we were the Windsor Regiment garrison dress, the camouflage one. That's kind of a strange outfit. You could wear the camouflage indoors, but you weren't allowed to wear it in the field. Go figure. Anyway, you can see this is completely embroidered all the way, and this is the. I think the cadets probably wear this one as well, but this would have been for the garrison dress. Now here we have just a couple little oddball things. We've down here, these are silk cigarette. Well, let's call them cards, but they're made of silk, and they're two different series. One was on Canadian or colonial badges. So here we have the Royal Canadian Dragoons, and this one shows a Royal Canadian Dragoon in the full scarlets with the hat, just like we showed you in that postcard that would have had the helmet plate. Now up here is another cigarette card for the Royal Canadian Dragoons. And the nice thing about this is there's some information on the regiment on the back, so it's kind of neat to have. I've seen some for the Strathcona's Horse and the Manitoba Dragoons. So these things are out there, and they're relatively inexpensive, but they're worth picking up to just kind of flesh out your collection a little bit. Then we have these two stamp-looking things here. Don't see any numbers on them, like 10 cents or what they would cost, so I don't know if they're exactly like what the postage are or exactly what they'd be used for, but they're kind of neat. And again, you see the Royal Canadian Dragoons, how they would have appeared during the Boer War. And here you have the RCDs with their musical ride. Just like the RCMP copied these guys and Strathcona's Horse and the military. Nice little additions for your collection. Nice little highlight stuff. A couple of odds and ends things here. Coaster, put your beer on in the mess or something. Again, it's part of the whole collecting thing. Oh, it's RCD. I might as well pick it up and put it in the frame. And over here we see a nice Royal Canadian Dragoons jacket crest that you put on your sports jacket. So come out, finish off in the baseball field or whatever. Come in and have a few beers on the coaster. Now here we have the combat cap badge. Now back when the old combat uniform, the solid green combat uniform, was worn from the late 60s into the 80s, actually into the 90s, late 90s, they would wear this on on their the soft cap that they were wearing in the field if they weren't wearing the black beret and badge. And then we'll take a look here. You can see a progression of the different epaulet titles. These would go on to a little cloth slip-on that would fit onto the epaulet as unit identifiers. This first one here would be for the combat uniform. There's really not very many, if any, variations of this. They kept the same thing throughout the run, all the way through the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and into the 90s. Next door to it, this would have been worn on a dark green piece of cloth that would go on to the dress shirt when you were wearing your dress uniform. And this again would be on your shirt that you would wear for the work dress, an old bus driver uniform. Then they came out with the temperate CAD-PAT uniform, the Canadian powdered camouflage. And so they came out with all new epaulet titles. And you can see the camouflage in the background there with Royal Canadian Dragoons. Then when we got involved in Afghanistan, they came out with the Arid CAD-PAT pattern, and this is the Royal Canadian Dragoons Arid CAD-PAT. And then somebody, and I don't know who, probably after a late night in the mess, decided that, well, wait a minute, you can't see the unit identifier on the camouflage, which would probably be like the whole idea behind camouflage. But they decided to come out with high vis, a high visibility one. And that's what this thing is here. I don't get it, but this is what they're using currently. You can find this in a bit of a smaller a badge too that goes onto the Velcro rank that they're currently wearing. So these are the shoulder flashes for the epaulets. Now on this card we have collar badges for the Royal Canadian Dragoons, and you can see by the dates the various different eras that these things were produced. You're probably wondering, well, how the heck do I know the difference? Again, guys, the reference material. A lot of this information is found in Chris Booker's fabulous books, Booker's Books of the Canadian Army, from 1920 to Unification. A lot of this information is on there where you can learn to tell the difference between the different time periods because of his wonderful reference work. Now, on the back, I'm just going to flip this card over and hold it for you. Maybe. You can see that some of these have north to south orientated lugs, others east to west. And again, that sometimes tells you how to determine the era that they're from. But and yes, I know some are both both right side or both whatever, but it takes a little while, and as you pick these things up, you're going to fill out the card, make it a little bit better. But I just wanted to show you that the reference material is so handy when you're trying to determine the era that some of this stuff is from. So here's probably the premier thing in my collection for the Royal Canadian Dragoons. It is their scarlet dress uniform for ceremonial stuff, and it's pretty much complete. You see we've got the beautiful brass Dragoons helmet here. At the collar dogs with the stand-up collar there. Buttons complete with the Royal Canadian Dragoons belt and buckle. You can see here as they turn it, we've got the Austrian knot depicting cavalry, corporal with the nice mylar thread, and we can see the Royal Canadian Dragoons brass shoulder title there up on the epaulet. Now the other nice thing is, we've got the bayonet. For this would be for the FN, so this puts it probably before 1987. You can see here with the leather belt. Now there should be another cross belt that I haven't got yet, but you can see underneath here we've got the Royal Canadian Dragoons buttons on the back here. So this is almost a complete view of the ceremonial uniform, and it's a wonderful addition to my collection. I believe the helmet came out of Clive Law's collection, and was able to source the other stuff here and there to get everything put together. Sometimes, guys, that's what you have to do. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode on the Royal Canadian Dragoons. Like I said, Canada's oldest and the premier armored regiment. Years and years of service to Canada, and in every war and conflict that we've ever encountered. And like I said, I've got a lot of good friends that are either still with the regiment or have served with them. So hope you guys enjoyed this collection. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and happy collecting.